Leaving kids home alone. There is no law in Washington or federal. Child 12 years old is acceptable, but only for a couple of hours, and it's not advised to leave a 12-year-old in charge of other kids, especially if they're small. Jantz is here to talk more with us about some things we need to consider and dangers when it comes to leaving kids home alone. And we bring this up because it does happen a lot, especially in the summer. Just this last week, there was a mother in South Carolina who was arrested for leaving her 3 kids at home. One was wheelchair bound, so there were some more issues going on there. But what do we need to consider, since there is no law, about an appropriate age when we leave kids at home?
Well, Marnie, there's the obvious. What's the child's age? How emotionally mature are they? Have we done any training for them? You know, kids, I would suggest never under age 10, and 12's a good range, but kids are different. Who's going to be in the home with them? Are there going to be other kids? How quickly can they get in contact with somebody? How quickly can somebody be there? Do they always have 2 phone numbers to call besides an emergency number? And what about things like food? Have we thought about,
are they going to eat?
Going to eat?
Yes.
And am I going to be gone for 2 hours, 4 hours? And the other is safety issues. You know, is there pills that could be accessible? Alcohol, those kinds of things, that weapons. So sometimes we forget, well, they're our kids, they're not going to be any problem, but we really got to err on the side of safety.
Yeah, well, and you brought up some of these, but I did a little research. I was looking at the DSHS website, and they have some guidelines that you touched on that I think it's important to go through. And one is asking your child if they're comfortable staying at home alone. Like, listen, Susie, we're going to leave for a couple of hours. Anything you're nervous about? Any concerns you have?
Right.
You know?
And I'm going to say if they show a lot of anxiety, it's a little too soon.
It's too soon. Yeah, let your kid help you dictate. And also, do they follow instructions? Can you trust them to tell the truth if something were to happen, good or bad?
Exactly. What if somebody knocks on the door? Do they have instructions on how to handle that? If the phone rings, what do you do?
Do they know how to call 911? I guess trying to gauge your child, if there was an emergency situation, would they know what to do? What
to do, absolutely.
What about family dynamics? Because you know, you and I both have multiple kids, and when in front of us, they can argue and kind of get at each other. So when you leave them alone, what are things we need to be considering that it won't get out of hand when we're not there to regulate?
Okay, you have an older kid, say 12, 13. You think, okay, we can be gone for a couple hours. You watch the younger one. But because the older one can be alone it doesn't mean that person or that child is qualified to oversee another child. And so what's the current dynamics of their relationship? Is this an opportunity to really tease or mistreat a younger brother or sister, which happens?
Yes.
And how are you going to get accurate information on what happened when you got home?
Who's going to give it to you? Because they want to do it again. They want the independence.
Exactly.
All right, so it sounds like we need to set some expectations, some ground rules. What would be your advice before you leave, you know, making sure they have kind of a checklist? But here's what I expect from you if you want to do this again.
I'm going to write it down. And I'm going to actually run through it with them. Maybe it's a neighbor or somebody that's nearby. Where's the name, the number? I'm going to make sure they can actually follow through. And they need to know, when do you call me? When do you call mom or dad's cell number? Under what? Because a lot of times they can be anxious and they'll just be calling you. You're gone for 2 hours and they've already called you a dozen times.
Right. They're nervous. You work with a lot of kids. What does it do for their kind of mental state to be given this independence? I mean, it's got to be at some level pretty healthy for them to feel like you trust them to be responsible to handle this.
Oh, this can be a great confidence builder. Give them a practice run, a shorter period of time. Maybe it's a 10 or 11-year-old that you feel, yes, they're making good decisions. Go away for an hour. But things like locking the door, practice some of this. Okay, practice when the phone rings, how do we answer it? Are you home alone? What is a kid trained to say? What about technology?
What are they trained to say? So if they get a phone call or a knock at the door, I mean, even as an adult, there are times I don't answer the door. You didn't tell me you're coming, I'm not answering the door. So what do we tell our kids when the phone rings or there's a door knock?
We don't go to the door.
You don't go to the door?
Don't go to the door. Doesn't matter. Don't even go look, because what if they saw you and it wasn't somebody that you knew? Now, it could be somebody you know, but we're always going to err on the side of safety. So don't go to the door. If you have caller ID on a phone, teach them how to use that. Don't answer a phone call that we don't know what the number is or who it is. Don't put them in that position where it's awkward to give an answer.
Yeah, okay, that's great advice. I was surprised that there is no law in Washington when it comes to the age of kids at home. So you're saying base it on your individual child, give them a little bit of trust, and see where it goes from there.
Remember, every child is different.
Every child is different. Good advice, especially this summer, Dr. Jantz. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.